Stop scrolling for a second. I need to show you something. America has over 400 national parks and protected lands, millions of acres of wilderness, thousands of geological formations that took millions of years to build, and most people have seen almost none of it. They visit the Grand Canyon, they snap a photo at Niagara Falls, they check Yellowstone off the list, then they go home thinking they have seen America's best. They haven't, not even close. Today, I am taking you to 5 natural wonders so stunning, so bizarre, and so completely off the radar that most Americans have never even heard their names. No tour buses, no gift shops, no Instagram crowds blocking the view. Just nature doing things that should not be possible. Stay until number 5 because it might be the most surreal place on American soil. Let's go. Before we get into the list, I want you to understand something. These are not undiscovered because they are boring. They are undiscovered because getting to them takes a little more effort than typing an address into Google Maps. Some require hiking, some require driving down roads that barely qualify as roads, some just require knowing they exist in the first place. That is what this video is for. Think of this as your personal field guide to America's most jaw-dropping hidden landscapes. All right, Wonder 1, The Wave, Arizona. Imagine someone took a giant paintbrush and swept it across sandstone. Swirling bands of red, orange, pink, and cream. Flowing lines that curve and fold like frozen waves caught mid-motion. Now imagine standing inside that painting. That is the wave. Located in the Vermilion Cliffs National Monument in northern Arizona near the Utah border, the wave is one of the most photographed geological formations in the world among those who know about it, and almost nobody knows about it. Here's why. The Bureau of Land Management issues only 64 permits per day to visit the wave, total, for the entire planet. 20 of those permits are available online 4 months in advance. The other 44 are given out by lottery the day before at the local visitors center. The odds of winning that lottery on any given day can be as low as 1 in 200. This is intentional. The sandstone is fragile. Footsteps cause damage. The only way to protect it is to strictly limit who gets in. So, if you win a permit, you treat it like a golden ticket, because it basically is. The hike to reach the wave is about 6 miles round trip across open desert with no marked trail. You navigate by landmarks and a printed map they give you with your permit. Getting lost is a real possibility. Bring more water than you think you need. The desert heat is not forgiving. But when you round the final bend and the wave opens up in front of you, every difficult step disappears from memory. The swirling patterns you see were formed over 190 million years, ancient sand dunes compressed and hardened into Navajo sandstone. Then wind and water carved them into these impossible curving shapes. The colors shift throughout the day as the light changes. Early morning gives you cool blues and soft pinks. Midday brings out the deep reds and oranges. Late afternoon turns the whole formation into something that glows from within. Most people who visit describe standing there in total silence, not because they are told to be quiet, because they cannot find words. Pro tip: apply for the online lottery as far in advance as possible. Visit the Bureau of Land Management website and search for the Wave Permit. The earlier you apply, the better your odds. Wonder 2, Fly Geyser, Nevada. This one looks like it came from another planet. Fly Geyser sits in the Black Rock Desert of northwestern Nevada, and the first time you see a photo of it, your brain genuinely struggles to accept that it is real. It's a rainbow-colored mound of minerals rising about 5 feet out of the desert floor. Jets of scalding water shoot constantly from its peaks. The entire structure is covered in vivid neon green and red algae that glow in the sun. It looks like a science fiction prop, a thermal vent from a different world accidentally placed in the Nevada desert. Here's the wild part about its history. Fly Geyser was created by accident. In 1964, a geothermal energy company drilled a test well on this land. They hit a pocket of superheated water. The well was abandoned and sealed, but not sealed well enough. The water found its way out. Over the following decades, dissolved minerals in the water began building up around the opening. Layer by layer, year by year, the structure grew taller. The algae moved in, the colors intensified. And now, 60 years later, Fly Geyser is one of the most visually extraordinary things in the American West. For most of its life, it was on private property and completely inaccessible to the public. In 2016, the Burning Man Project purchased the land and surrounding property, now called Fly Ranch, and they've been working to open it responsibly to visitors ever since. Today, you can book guided tours through the Burning Man Project website. Spots fill up fast. The tours are intentionally small to protect the site. The surrounding landscape adds to the experience. Hot springs pool nearby in turquoise and emerald green. Wetlands appear out of nowhere in the middle of the desert. Wildlife has gathered around this expected oasis. Birds, frogs, fish, and the warm mineral pools. This tiny accidental geyser accidentally created an entire ecosystem. There aren't many places in the world where a human mistake resulted in something this beautiful. Fly Geyser is one of them. Pro tip: book tours through the official Fly Ranch website. Do not attempt to visit independently. The property is monitored and unauthorized entry is not permitted. Wonder 3. Antelope Canyon X, Arizona. You've probably seen photos of slot canyons. The beams of light shooting down through narrow sandstone corridors, the walls glowing orange and red, the curves and ripples carved by centuries of flash floods. Most people know about Upper Antelope Canyon. It sits near Page, Arizona on Navajo Nation land and is one of the most visited slot canyons in Earth. On peak days, hundreds of tourists shuffle through in guided groups, shoulder to shoulder, waiting their turn to photograph the same light beam. But a few miles away sits Antelope Canyon X. Same geology, same dramatic light, same breathtaking carved walls, flowing like silk frozen in stone. A fraction of the visitors. Antelope Canyon X is a lesser-known section of the same canyon system. It requires slightly more physical effort. There are ladders and some scrambling involved. That alone keeps the tour groups away. What you get in return is a slot canyon experience that feels genuinely personal. The walls here reach heights of over 100 feet at places. The narrow passages sometimes squeeze to just a few feet wide. You walk through corridors where the sky above is just a thin ribbon of blue between walls of swirling sandstone. The color is unlike anything else in nature. The stone absorbs and radiates light in shades of amber, crimson, violet, and gold. Every step you take changes the color around you. Flash floods carved these passages over thousands of years. The water moved so fast and with such force that it smoothed the stone like a river polishes pebbles. Every curve, every ripple, every undulation in the wall, all shaped by water and time. The Navajo people call these canyons Tesbahanilani, the place where water runs through rocks. They consider them sacred, and walking through one, it is very easy to understand why. Midday visits offer the best light. Between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., the sun is positioned to shoot light directly down into the narrow passages, creating the dramatic illumination that makes slot canyon photography so spectacular. Pro tip: book through the official Navajo-owned tour company. This supports the local community and is also required by law. Independent access is not permitted. Search for licensed Antelope Canyon X tours in Page, Arizona. Wonder 4. Marble Canyon and Vermilion Cliffs, Arizona. Arizona keeps showing up on this list. There is a reason for that. The Colorado Plateau is one of the most geologically extraordinary places on the planet, and most of it sits completely in the shadow of the Grand Canyon's fame. Marble Canyon and the Vermilion Cliffs corridor is one of the most dramatic drives in the United States. Almost nobody makes it a destination. Most people pass through on their way to somewhere else. They glance out the window. They do not stop. That is a mistake worth correcting. The Vermilion Cliffs rise nearly 3,000 feet above the canyon floor. The color is extraordinary, deep red and orange bands of sandstone that glow fiercely at sunrise and sunset like the cliff face is on fire. Below them, Marble Canyon carries the Colorado River in a narrow, deep gorge. The water has cut through limestone layers going back 270 million years. Standing on the Navajo Ridge above it, you look down 467 feet to the river below. California condors nest in the cliffs above. These are the largest flying birds in North America, with wingspans reaching 10 feet. They were nearly extinct just decades ago. Recovery programs have brought them back, and the Vermilion Cliffs are one of their strongholds. If you stand quietly at the right time of day, you can watch them ride the thermals above the canyon walls, great dark wings catching invisible currents of air, soaring without effort. There is a stretch of road through here, Highway 89A, that is one of the most beautiful roads in America. You drive with the Vermilion Cliffs on your left, rising impossibly high, the canyon cutting deep on your right, and a sky above that seems wider than anywhere else you have ever been. The area has almost no services, one small store, a couple of lodges. That is also the point. This is what the West looked like before everything was developed and explained and turned into an attraction. It just sits there, ancient and indifferent and breathtaking. Pro tip: drive this corridor at sunrise or sunset. The cliff colors at those times are in a completely different category than anything you will see in the middle of the day. Pull over often. Take your time. Wonder 5. Cave of the Mounds, Wisconsin, and the broader hidden cave network of America. I promised you the most surreal place in America. Here it is. Most people picture America's great natural wonders as things they can see from above. Mountains, canyons, coastlines. They forget that some of the most extraordinary natural architecture in the country exists completely underground. Cave of the Mounds in Blue Mounds, Wisconsin, was discovered in 1939 during limestone quarrying blasting. Workers set off an explosion. When the dust cleared, they were staring into a cavern filled with formations that had been growing in total darkness for millions of years. The cave had been sealed since the last ice age. Inside, you find stalactites hanging from the ceiling like stone icicles, stalagmites rising from the floor, cave coral, cave popcorn, delicate helictites that grow in every direction, defying gravity, bending and curling as if alive. The colors inside are extraordinary: white calcite, pink aragonite, rusty iron oxide formations, all of it growing one drop of mineral-rich water at a time, 1 year after another, for tens of thousands of years. A single stalactite 1 inch long took roughly 100 years to form. Let that sit for a moment. Every formation you see in that cave represents spans of time that the human brain genuinely cannot process. But the Cave of the Mounds is just the entry point to a much bigger story. America has hundreds of wild cave systems that most people never hear about. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is the longest known cave system on Earth, over 400 miles of explored passages, and still being mapped. Crystal Cave in California glows with rare cave crystals. Lechuguilla Cave in New Mexico contains some of the most spectacular cave formations ever discovered, and is so fragile that only scientific researchers are permitted inside. The underground world beneath American soil is as vast and spectacular as anything above it. It just requires a flashlight instead of a telescope. If you want to start exploring America's cave systems, Cave of the Mounds is one of the most accessible and family-friendly entry points. From there, the rabbit hole goes as deep as you are willing to follow it. Pro tip: visit on a weekday to avoid school groups. The guided tours are genuinely excellent. The guides know their geology and make the history feel alive. Bring a light jacket because cave temperatures stay around 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round regardless of the season outside. each one completely unlike anything most Americans have ever seen. The wave, carved by wind into swirling red stone over 190 million years. Fly geyser, an accidental human mistake that became one of the most colorful things on the planet. Antelope Canyon X, a slot canyon experience with all the beauty and none of the crowds. The Vermilion Cliffs, a corridor of ancient red stone so dramatic it barely looks real. And the underground world beneath American soil, vast, silent, and growing in the dark right now as you watch this. Here's the thing about hidden natural wonders. They are not hidden because they are less impressive than the famous ones. They are hidden because most people never go looking. You just went looking, and now you have 5 destinations that most people will never see in their lifetime. The only question left is which one you visit first. Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. If this video helped you discover something new, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe for more videos like this. New content every week. Until next time, go outside, go further than last time. There is always something extraordinary on the other side of the effort.